Imagine starting your own brokerage at just 23 years old, growing it into 4 offices with 137 agents, and then going on to close more than $1.4 billion in sales while leading a 200 plus agent organization nationwide. That's the level of experience my guest brings today. And if you're serious about growing your real estate business, this is an interview you don't want to miss. So let's get to it. I'm Carrie Hill, lawyer turned realtor and EXP certified mentor. And today I'm excited to introduce you to someone with nearly 13 years of experience, a proven track record from $10,000 deals to $21.7 million properties, and deep expertise in new construction with some of the nation's top builders. On top of that, he runs multiple training platforms dedicated to helping agents succeed. Please welcome Garth Ward. Hi Garth, thank you for joining me today. I am so excited to have you here. So, could you just tell us what your story is about how you got into real estate?
Yeah, I first had the realization that I was going to get into real estate when I was 12 years old, and I was trying to optimize my way into getting more candy and higher quality candy. And my first thought was to go to the public GIS assessor's data system to create valuation properties and correlate that to the highest value neighborhoods, and then correlate that to lot widths. Because the smaller the lot widths and the higher the value of the properties, I said, that'll be the most highest quality candy, and I would be able to do that in the fastest time because it'd be the shortest amount of steps. And then I sat back and I said, maybe there's something here that that I should probably focus on. And so every step after that was directed towards getting into the industry. And after a lot of back and forth in struggling with having absolutely no money growing up, and I went through foster care and everything, I actually had turned down full ride scholarships to every single institution you can imagine when I was 15, and stayed in high school longer because I knew I was going to work the rest of my life anyways, because I enjoy working. And I spent all my time after I graduated spending it working several minimum wage jobs. I worked at 5 different jobs at one point, all at the same time, while taking a bus and riding a bike to each of them. And at the time I was about 19, I was able to save up enough for a car because I didn't have a car. And I said, wow, I can say I have enough for a car. I have enough for 3 months living expenses, because I was also paying for our apartment at that point ever since I was about 16. And I said, now that I have the resources to do it, I'm going to go all in. I'd gotten my course. I passed my test. I quit all of my jobs at the same time, and I had 3 months to make it work. And I did. I ended up closing my first deal only about 45 days into starting into the business at 19 years old. And I used that to buy my first bed. And a year later, I was a homeowner.
Wow. That's an incredible story. Oh my goodness. So my next question is what is the kind of challenges you faced after you became a realtor? Or what would have been your greatest challenge then? You already just jumped over so many challenges, though. I'm super excited to hear what this was and how you jumped that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in real estate, there was a lot of them. Initially, I didn't have a wardrobe that spoke professionalism. I was still effectively a child. I didn't know how to speak to people in a way that relayed competence. I could have all the competence in the world, but I didn't understand how to relay that in a way that got them to believe it. And so that was a big hurdle. And next hurdle was I looked extremely young. I looked so young that people didn't think I was old enough to even sign contracts, let alone sell real estate. Because as we all know listening, the average real estate agent is in their mid to late 50s, not 19 years old. And so not only did I have to overcome not having the ability to properly articulate my value, because I never really talked to adults older than myself growing up, I also had to overcome the misunderstanding of what a house even was. I grew up sleeping on a couch. I had periods of time where I was homeless. I thought that wealthy meant you had a house. I did not know there was levels to it. I did not know that there was levels to the quality of the finish work or the floor plans, or that there was differences. There was such a learning curve to understanding what home ownership was when I was so far removed from it that people would start believing that I would be able to help them throughout that process. So those were probably my biggest obstacles to overcome when I initially started out.
Okay, so now I have to ask, how did you overcome that? I mean, how'd you look older? Did you do something?
I did. And, here's the recipe to success when you're broke and you're young. Okay, so what I did is, because I had almost no money, right? And my wardrobe consisted of, hoodies and work attire, like in soccer equipment and athleisure, because I worked out all the time. So what I did was I allocated $1,000 for an entire wardrobe. I went to H&M and I got suits that were slightly too big for me. I got 3 of them. I then went to Nordstrom Rack and I had them tailor them to me so I would look the part. Because weirdly enough, it's not necessarily always the quality. Yes, some people can tell, most people can't. It's about the way that it fits. So I made sure they all fit amazing. Then I went and I got 3 different shirts, and then I got 10 different ties, and I got 5 different pairs of socks, and I got 3 different shoes, so I could have almost unlimited combinations and always be showing up to the office wearing a suit. That's number 1. Number 2, I grew out a beard. I grew out an entire beard, and that made me look at least maybe a couple years older, and that helped. I also made sure that my hair was extremely well groomed. You'll notice that's not exactly the case today, but I also don't worry about the same things that I had to worry about before, because now I can lean on things like track record, performance, history, all of the other things that people care about, right? It wasn't immediately judged and immediately no, right? I had to overcome the initial half second, that's a no, and that definitely did it for me.
Wow, that's great. And regarding your other thing that you had to, get over the hurdle with, how did you learn about houses? Was it just doing the process? Did you have a good mentor? I mean, how did you learn everything else about real estate that you needed to know that you didn't know from your background?
Well, I am a weird person. I actually study the craft. When I would actually walk properties without clients. I would preview houses. I would learn the floor plans and how they correlated to different ages. So I know, hey, if this was built in the late 70s, I already know the floor plan based off of the style code of that property. I already know how it was built, who it was built by, etc. I understood and studied it every single day. Then, to understand the value of each one of those aspects, I went to every single new construction site that existed, and I would ask, what upgrade, if this is upgraded, what's that cost? If you build this out and you structurally change it, what does that cost? If you add this molding, what does that cost? And the different builders would have different prices for the different qualities and different things like that. But then you start to get a mental gauge of quality differences and separations. And then when I had my initial clients, how I really built the understanding was when I had my initial inspectors work with me, I asked them all the questions. I was the client. I was like, okay, you're going to pay him. That's cool. Most clients sit in the kitchen. I was in the crawl spaces with the inspectors, understanding it. I was sitting there trying to understand everything that they were saying, because ultimately that came in extreme handy when I did end up buying my first place as a short sale. It was fairly distressed, and I ended up personally doing almost an entire house overhaul, from paint, siding, roofing, electrical, plumbing, crawl space repair, all of it. I personally did it. Paint, trim, electrical, plumbing, you name it. And I did that because I wanted to fully understand. Because when you can fully understand the process that people go through, you can better articulate it and you can better empathize with people about what their situations are.
That's so true. And that education was clearly all worth it with the amount of success that you have had at such a young age, too.
Appreciate that.
So in the real estate business, what is your number one way of getting leads?
Oh, goodness. I take, well, it kind of depends on the chapter of my business because it's definitely changed and evolved over time. But I think if somebody's listening to this, I would give them a basic 3-pillared approach that's going to work for anybody at any aspect of their business. I would say take time to understand and do multiple open houses. My open house strategy has helped hundreds of agents get to multiple 6 figures and some millions a year just off of open houses alone. So I would do and focus on open houses and do it in a unique strategy like I do it. That's number one. Number two, I would focus on cold calling, especially canceled, expireds, and for sale by owners specifically, especially in today's market center. The landscape is such that there are so many things that are falling off the market. It just makes a lot of sense to pour a little bit of time and effort into that. And it's only going to help you with objection handling, with the ability to converse with clients that are not exactly on your side. And that's only going to be a positive thing in the end of it, right? It's never going to be a negative thing, right? So I would do both of those. And then I would make sure that I'm on every single pay on close platform that I can find. Because if you're brand new and you're a new agent, maybe you don't have a lot of money to throw into marketing. Well, that's fine. Get onto the pay on close platforms. They're either free or very close to free. And then when you close the deals, you just pay a referral fee, which is the same thing as just paying the upfront marketing cost and then closing the deal. It's just a much cheaper avenue to get into it. So if you do all 3 of the things that I just suggested in conjunction with each other, that would be working about 30 hours a week. And there's no reason anybody doing that 30 specific hours a week cannot close 30 plus deals a year. You don't even need anything auxiliary to that in your business.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. What is the number one thing that really accelerated your growth the most?
Ooh, I would say, oh gosh, I'm going to give 2 because it's the truth. Okay, I'm going to give 2. One is making sure that I was around people that forced me to grow. Right, my first office that I joined in when I started in the journey of real estate was a very large regional brokerage that everybody knows, at least in the Pacific Northwest, because I was south of Seattle. And I quickly became the top agent at that office in just a couple years. And what happened was I could see myself stagnating because I'm a hyper competitive person. So I ended up getting headhunted to a luxury firm that was just being created by some of the highest producers in the country. And I was the first agent they ended up hiring. But by putting myself in that environment, it forced me to be more competitive with higher numbers and people that were creating and getting way higher results than me. And it also gave me the ability to get connected with people that truly understood the luxury world. Because again, when I was young, I didn't even understand a house. So then how was I going to understand the luxury world if I just finished understanding a house? So I got around the people that knew it the absolute best, and I got mentored by them for a while. And boom, I saw an immediate growth in price point, an immediate ability to change how I was doing things. And alongside that, I sat back and I said, how can I drastically change my business? There's only 3 levers we can pull. We can get more clients. We can get more clients consistently that come back to us faster. In other words, the rate of return of our clients. Or we can sell higher price points. That's it. Or we can charge more, I guess. But effectively, those are the 3 levers that we have.
Yeah.
So if those are the 3 levers that we have, we can't really get people to buy and sell homes faster. They're going to sell them at 6 to 10 years on average. That's just what it is. And okay, how can I attack both other levers at the same time to drastically change my results? And I sat back and I said, new construction properties. Because if I can get in and be the marketer and be the listing agent on new construction properties, and in my case, my first ever plat ever, I pitched a plat. Again, I was 23 years old, and it was 32 homes next to 9 homes. So it was 41 homes. I pitched it as being the exclusive agent. I'd never sold a new construction home in my entire life. And I ended up winning it, and those homes were selling on average for $850,000 a piece. The average homes in the area were selling for $500,000. So it very quickly elevated my ability to sell at that price point, because anybody walks in, this is just what I do, right? And there's such scale to it, and there's repeatability to the builder world, and it's small world. So it's easier to then leverage that 41 homes to get another with 6, and another with 12, and another with 4, and another with 10, right? Over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then those builders want to consistently be building and then buying another piece of land and then developing it. And then maybe they don't sell it with homes, maybe they sell the development, right? And then all of a sudden I'm doing these bigger land deals and all that. But all of that was actually started because I sold one land deal. The first land deal I ever did that actually closed was $21.7 million, and it was a land deal. I had never sold commercial land or a new construction home ever before I did that.
Wow.
And then I leveraged that into the new construction space, and then that gave me a lot more scalability.
Wow, that's incredible. I love your story. You're being so helpful. I'm sure everybody loves hearing from you. So my next question is, I like to ask people, like, if they were to go to a brand new market, what would they start with first? But I think you just did that not that long ago. So yours will be what you actually did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I did just do that. So I moved from the Seattle market. I'm now in the greater Memphis market. I started doing sales here 13 months ago. Tomorrow I will close my 60th transaction in this market. And that's with no friends, no referrals, don't know the neighborhoods, don't know the market, starting from scratch. And what I would do is, as lame as this answer is, do the 3 pillars I said earlier. Just do that. And if you want to do stuff auxiliary on top of that, social media to increase engagement and discoverability, social media to increase brand authority. Maybe you could run paid ads if you have the money, which I did not do for this, by the way, because I wanted to prove it without paid ads. But if you wanted to, you could. And then you can utilize a specific version of modern farming that nobody else utilizes that I call saturation. And that's predicated on doing open houses in a specific neighborhood, doing cold calls around that specific neighborhood, getting and gathering emails at that neighborhood, utilizing targeted ads for that neighborhood specifically with video sales letters or VSLs specifically directed towards that neighborhood and specific things about that neighborhood and upcoming events and etc. So they're getting your ad specifically, and then an email campaign that goes along on top of that, and then dropping off specifically dialed in packages, all pre-created and branded for that neighborhood and around you. If you do all of those things in conjunction with each other, there's no reason you can't win any market share, which I did before. One time I went to a neighborhood that I wanted. Everybody wanted the neighborhood, 220 homes. Never sold a home in the neighborhood. 7 months later, I had a 40% market share because I did that strategy.
Yeah, that's great. I can totally see how that would absolutely work. Definitely. So another question is, what would be your best piece of advice to an agent who's struggling right now?
I would, screw it, I'll give the real advice. Okay, if you're struggling right now, there's only one of 2 things that are happening. Well, I'll tell you the main thing that's happening. You have a pipeline problem. That's the reality. If you are struggling as an agent, it's not because the client fell through. It's not because this deal was bad. It's not because it's hard. It's because you don't have enough potential clients. I'll tell you right now, if you had 100 listings, some of them will sell. I do not care what the market's doing, right? So you have a pipeline problem, which tells me you have a prospecting problem, or you don't do any prospecting, which is probably the more likely case. So what I would argue is, if you're a struggling agent, take a hard look at your calendar. And if you do not already actually tangibly on your calendar have time allocated towards prospecting in your calendar right now, I'm saying go to your phone, everybody, go to your phone right now. If you don't have it in the calendar, it does not exist. That's number one. That means you're not prospecting. You can't expect to have more clients if you're not prospecting. That's it. If you prospect more, you will have more clients. You want the easiest, simple answer to the entire business. This is like the 42 answer of real estate. Talk to 5 people that do not know you every single day about real estate and give them an offer to give them services of some kind. If you do that every single day, you will have a very wealthy life. It is that simple. We overcomplicate it with the shiny objects and this, that, and the other, but that is all the answer is. And there's different ways we can go about doing it. That's it. And the other thing is yes, if it's not in your calendar, that's a problem. And number 2, if all of your motivation is directed towards variable outcome, in other words, I'm only going to do it because I have to do it, this might not be the right business for you. You're going to have to, regardless of the situation and the outcome, put in the inputs to get the output that you're desiring. So I'll give everybody a basic example. When I first started doing the sales in this market center, I was doing everything that I know to work, and at least in my opinion, perfectly. In my opinion. That first month, I sold one home. Now, that's closed, to be fair, but the next month, I sold 2. And then what happened is the echo effect. And that's what I think everybody in this business seems to forget. Everything you do today will result in what happens in 3 months. 3 months later, and ever since, I have closed 4 or more homes every single month after the 3rd month hit. And every agent, it's August now, if they put in the right effort, the right inputs into your business, if you're listening to this, you can have a business in 2026. And I know that's weird that I'm talking about that already, but it's the truth. If you want a business in 2026 that sells 3+ homes every single month, you just have to put in the inputs consistently right now, all the way to the end of the year. And when the results start rolling in, you keep doing the actions that got you the results. Again, it's a very simple answer, harder to execute.
Definitely hard to execute, but thank you for making that so simple, because absolutely, totally see that would work. So my last question I just want to ask you is, why did you join eXp Realty and the Wolf Pack?
Oh man, that's multifaceted, but I'm going to keep it as brief as I can. Ultimately, I didn't. Initially, I said no, right? I ended up, I had my brokerage. I was sitting pretty. I was like, I'm doing just fine. I don't need this. I'm going to expand. I'm going to go across the country. It's fine. And then I sat back and I was looking at the way that I was going to expand it. And I wanted to build an online presence, and I wanted to have actual impact on as many agents as I possibly could. And I said, okay, I am geographically restricted. That was a problem. That's number one. Because it was either lead with lots of capital into new market centers or move to new market centers or something else. It was going to be a challenge to properly grow across the country. So that's number one. Number 2 is, after delving into all of the assets, tools, and resources at our disposal with Social Agent Academy and AI prompt trainings and all of the myriad of tech that eXp has at our disposal, and the compensation plan that allows for revenue shares to be given to any agent and have that effect and help me, with me helping them grow, that can help me. That would give the agents that I worked with that already worked for me the ability to scale and build what I was building. So without putting it in a weird way, I couldn't genuinely, after I sat back for a long enough period, I couldn't genuinely sell the product that I had and in an authentic way. I firmly believe that I have to believe in what I am selling to somebody. If I'm saying, hey, come here, join this, do this, I have to believe that it works and that it's the best. And to me, I had to shepherd the agents that worked with me to the best possible place for them. And candidly, I turned down offers for large sums of money to sell my brokerage. I turned them down. And I made substantially less money to make that transition, and I took on all the splits and fees that every other agent had when I was paying nothing to the brokerage that I owned. So I ended up taking every single potential negative route to get into EXP, and I did it purposefully for the long-term vision and with the understanding that the people that are surrounding and in the community, in the Wolfpack, are the best in the entire industry. And if we could build a high quality value stack that spoke to people in a way that made it an immediate yes, because the value far outweighed what we were charging, which is $0, it becomes an absolute no-brainer. Which is why at this point, I mean, I have multiple agents coming to work with me every single week. And that's because the amount of value far outpaces the $0 cost. And ultimately, to me, it's the best vehicle to operate the platform of value that we're driving. And the craziest thing, and this is the random aside, I'd now been at that point at 2 different brokerages and owned one. And today, now that I've been here for about a little over 2 years now, I can say that the culture surrounding this organization is better than anything that I have ever been a part of by far. By far.
I'm not at all surprised to hear that. I've been with our group a bit longer than you, and I cannot tell you how many calls I've been in, like a mastermind call, where an agent that had been in the business for 20 years and at some very large one said that they had not gotten as much good information the entire time of their career that they did in our 1 hour. So I'm glad that you have found it a great place to be as well. I totally agree with you. It's great to be a part of a place that we believe in so strongly. Anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate hearing your story.
Thank you.
If you're interested in partnering with Smart Agent Alliance or with Garth or with both of us, yes, there is a way. Click the link in the description below to get the ball rolling. And if you want any more information about eXp Realty or our team, there should be some videos showing up right now. Thank you for watching and have a great day.